And what this allows me to do is just create endless variants of this one patch. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm actually going to be doing a deep dive on sustains. I'm going to be breaking this video up into two main portions. One's going to be the basic fundamentals of a sustain. So if you're really not sure of how sustains work, this is going to easily break it down for you, and I'll be using Serum for this. And then the second part is going to be the really fun part, which is going to be advanced post-processing. So if you're tired of your sustains sounding like this, and you want them to be massive, or even, then this video's for you. First, yes, I am not in my usual setup. I am in Puerto Rico right now working, so I'm actually recording this video at midnight. Second, lighting, very, very suboptimal. Third, if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, help me grow. I'm almost at 6K, which is really cool. Fourth, I heard Alley Cat gave me a shout out at Cyclops Cove Subtronics festival at her production corner. Thank you, Alley Cat. If you see this video, I appreciate the support. It means a lot. Glad my tutorials bring value in the community.
And now for something completely different.
All right, so we're in Ableton. What you see at the bottom here is the rack we're kind of going to go over. First will be the structure of how to make your sustains, and then the later part will be the post-processing that we're going to do. If you like this rack and all the sounds, like the preview in this video, this rack is going to be my Patreon. You can join down below with the link, and I appreciate anyone that joins. There's going to be probably 15, 20 presets on this rack alone by the time this goes up. Plenty of variety just in one rack. So the important thing about a sustain is it is a legato note, which means it's going to be a long note. In dubstep, generally what you'll see, say if 9 is your drop start, you're going to have your sustain come in on the 3. It's going to be we're doing excision, subsidiary dubstep, it's going to be chug, chug, land on the snare with your sustain. And we can pretty much do this with any song. I'll show you one I was working on. So you can hear that one in the background. I'll even throw another one in here. Dance in the pit! So you can see even in the songs I chose to show that it comes in on 3. It's very popular, and then usually it's going to sustain out till you have your fill here. So usually it's going to go 1.5, 2.5 bars. So what's the point of a sustain? Sustain is to add filler noise throughout the whole drop, and it's supposed to have a tone. You want tones in your sustains. If I just type in sustain, I won't even use mine. I'll find someone else like Tracy. We can even use Nasco's. You can hear tones, and once again, some of my new ones. We have 1, it's going to be legato. 2, it's going to have a tone. And what helps us shape a tone is usually some type of notch, something that's going to peak over. And you can kind of choose where that lays, If we go back to our own patch here. Doesn't sound great so far, stay with me. But you hear a tone, and we can shape that, And it's really cool because the more resonance you put in, the more it's really going to emphasize that note. We already have the basic fundamentals. We're going to have the level up. FM from B, I keep at 1 persistent. I don't have it being changed with the LFO. And then the sub, I like to add in. I don't like to direct out because it adds distortion, adds some grit to it. You can hear it change. Also, it's important to note whenever you're doing sound design in general, always turn your random down because it'll give you different kind of hear it starting at a different phase. So always just put it down. You always get the same result. Just fun little fact. Now, the big thing you want to know is this LFO one down here. More importantly, on envelope. Now, you always want to do a ramp up. Like this structure right here is a sustain ramp. And if for some reason you're like, I won't remember this, what you can do is you can just go to your file, save shape, and then put sustain LFO. Boom. And now anytime you want to use it, you can go to here, go to user, sustain LFO. We got it. Super cool. So little life trick right there. The biggest thing usually is going to be using one oscillator, FMing it from another. So you're gonna have the volume all the way turned off on oscillator B, but we're gonna use the FM from oscillator B. It is very important. So now we have the fundamentals of what a sustain does. How do we make it not sound so thin? Like the example I showed at the beginning of this video. How do we make it sound more massive? Because right now we're kind of in the same boat, and that's gonna be the power of post-processing, which is a very different sound than what we just started with. So we're gonna move out of Serum and we're gonna move into multipass. If you don't have multipass, what it is a kilohertz plugin that lets you do multi-band post-processing. I explained it in my last video when I was going over filter table, which is also a main component of this patch in general. But just so everyone understands, pre-effects is bringing what's in Serum and putting it here. From here, this will go into your bands of how you choose to do that. So I'm just driving this a ton. And you can see distortion has a really big effect on how something sounds, because if you're pushing stuff and then filtering it, you get different results. That's the fun of sound design. Banding up the sub here because I need the sub to cut through. That's the only thing that's really happening here. And the mids is really the main portion here. And lastly, there's a lot of harsh high end. So I brought it down. It then goes into all these separately go into the OTT and then another shaper, which is another sign of distortion. So if I turn this off, really adds a grit. Everything kind of does its part. Now, the cool thing is I'm a avid user of Convolver, and what Convolver is pretty much an impulse response, which it takes a sound of a bass or whatever you put into it, and it puts that sound into your current sound. So if I turn off everything else real quick, you can see how it takes that sound that I shaped. Obviously, I put it at a different mix. We slide this around, you get different results. Combs is just adding stereo width. Really help, it really like sterilizes the high end. Disperser, just adding a little more in the mids. Just really gives it that like mid heaviness. And then of course, filter table, which I explained in my last video. So if you want to learn more about filter table and the power it has, check out the last video. But the TLDR is it's pretty much an impulse response that it's also a wavetable and a filter. So the results are awesome, guys. And we can do that. Last but not least, I'm pulling the stereo width because all this stuff has a lot of phasing. So I'm pulling it in. So from there, I'm then doing kick tight. This is literally a parallel just for my sub. So it makes my sub sound better. That's all it's doing. It's off on my mid band, so it doesn't matter. And then we have OTT, EQs, carving out resonances, a lot of mud. When you do a lot of distortion over time, you're gonna get mud. This is just bringing out the stereo in the high end because it was lackluster. That's what it was before. So I really want it to punch up, and I really want it to be airy because of my drops when it's layered with my chugs that are pretty wide. I want this part to also kind of be not as wide as my chugs, but I want the higher you go in your spectrum, the more stereo you get. So that just applied to this. Next is comb filtering. It's just, I liked it, so without it. Really adding that width again. And then G clip, just soft clipping it and making it louder. And that's how I made this patch. The cool thing about this though, and what I think a lot of people, they'll stop, make this, save it, call it a day. And I think they're missing out on a lot of opportunities with sustains is automating certain things or mapping. So for one, I have the wavetable, the sync, the filter position of the high notch, and this one make growl, which I'll explain later, all being in this right here, which are the blues. And then the orange is my comb filter and filter table, which is just changing where these go. And you can see here, I automated it here first and then to here. And what this allows me to do is just create endless variants of this one patch. It's pretty cool. It's pretty freaking cool. And even like, we'll go back to guttural, which is a preset. If you only want to have certain things on or off at certain times, you can double click or right click and exclude macro from randomization. I don't want this on all of them because it doesn't sound good, but I can turn this on. And I made a little note here, make growl knob, turn off multipass because it ruins it. And then all of a sudden you get this really cool spin down. And all the make growl is doing is make growl, which is going to be macro 4, is just a master tune, pulling down the master tune. Now the sub. So it plays a big part. Really cool, fun thing to do. Shout out all my Patreons currently. If you want to grab the rack, it's going to be on Patreon. You can grab it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.